Most people don't fail at starting a business because they're not capable. They fail because they start the wrong way. You can spend months building something and then realize nobody cares. Starting a business isn't about building something. It's about solving a problem that people will pay for. If you're thinking about starting a business, or you've started and nothing's really working, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to break down how to start a business the right way without wasting your time or your money. Over 90% of people watching this podcast aren't actually subscribed, and we post conversations like this every single week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. So one thing I wanted to, following on from last week's episode, is how to actually start a business without wasting your time or your money. So why most people get starting a business wrong is they start with the idea instead of the problem. They think, oh, what business should I start? What are people gonna love? What are people gonna choose, instead of what problem can I solve? And that ends up on ideas. They sound good, but they don't usually convert. And the businesses, they're built on problems, not ideas. If you can go in and solve a problem for somebody, they're going to pay you.
Oh, that's exactly right. And the thing is, the whole thing about business is solving other people's problems.
Yeah.
It's like we're all part of a big family, helping each other solve each other's problems. But it's true. I mean, especially in the B2B SaaS, where you get a lot of founders and startups, and what they do is they tend to look at building a product because they think it's a good idea, and it might be a good idea, and it might solve a problem, but in some cases it just doesn't do that, and it falls flat on its face. And there's so many SaaS companies that just don't succeed because that's how they actually get started.
The easiest way for you to start a business is to look at the problems that you have in your life and fix them. Because if you can firsthand say, I was doing XYZ and it was causing this, this, and this, so I, created this business to help fix this, and now it's resulted in this, you're much more likely to sell it because you have that personal experience.
And that's exactly what happened with Basecamp. They were an agency doing normal agency work, and they needed a platform to communicate between the team. So they created their own project management system, and which ultimately became Basecamp because it worked so well for them that they then started to allow other people to get access to it. This is exactly how Adonis Media has evolved as well over the years, where, well, really over the last 25 years I've been in business, it's always been the same problems that where, I can see where businesses are losing money and have leaky buckets because of the fragmentation that exists within the business. And this happens, and this is every business. It's not just B2B SaaS either. So
Yeah.
what we've done to overcome that is we've built a solution to help solve that problem. So if you're solving problems, you can guarantee that you should be able to make money, but always start with the problem.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, like when you're building, especially when you're building a SaaS platform, you don't want to be overbuilding things. And goes back on what you were saying last week about the building in public. What you can do is you can
Yeah.
get validation as you're building things, and especially for people that are in the weeds, and that they know what the problems are, and you can then take that information, that feedback, and try and build a product which helps solve that problem better than just overbuilding and then waiting for the validation.
Yeah.
So build the website first, or sorry, so some of the common mistakes really is building a website first, or creating branding too early, or maybe perfecting the product, which I've done before with our system, rather than going out there and validating the product, getting your first couple of customers, making sure it's worked, which is exactly what we've done, and we've proven it in various industries as well. You need that validation to come first before you actually start to come to completion with the product, before the creation, if you like. So that old adage saying, build it and they will come, doesn't happen. You need to prove that it's going to work first.
Yeah. And what you can do is, you can go out to businesses and maybe offer them when you're first starting out, just get enough money from them so that you're, paying your bills and kind of just paying yourself or, whatever, just to get that testimonial. Or, if you're working a 9 to 5 at the same time, do it for free. Get your first couple customers for free and tell them that they have to do a video testimonial. They have to leave a testimonial on Google and Facebook. That's worth way more and that will help your business in the long term.
That's right. And then when they start to then get the test, because this is exactly what I done like years ago before content marketing was even a thing. I used to build software. I used to help people build their e-commerce stores online. And back then, program was quite new. So I used to I was running a business at the time actually, and basically what happened is we couldn't afford the £800 I wanted at the time. This is going back, must be about a good 25 years. So I couldn't afford the £800, so I used to go out with the car detailing business from 6 o'clock in the morning till sometimes 11 o'clock at night. Come in, eat, have a shower, sit down in front of the computer, and I used to sit in front of the computer right through the night until the morning time, till I was ready to go get the van ready to go back out again, to learn PHP and programming. So what I did is I started helping other people, and I can remember getting the first £200 payment from someone, and although I'd taken the time to learn and understand and build this little bit of software which plugged into their e-commerce system, which was merely me just dragging and dropping via FTP, that was an amazing experience at that time. But what you can do is you can actually use those experiences once you've got some of the testimonials, which will help you with social proof and bring on more customers. Is when you start getting paying customers, is you use those paying customers to fund the development of your what application or whatever it is that you're building, your business even. You use them to build to fund it until you get to a point where you can really start to push it as a product on its own, and then it just grows from there.
Yeah. Something that a lot of people do when they're first starting a business is they confuse that activity with progress. Feeling productive, you might be planning or researching or setting things up, and it can feel very productive in the time, but you avoid the selling, the talking to customers, and the testing the offers. And that is what's actually going to get the feedback from your market and see if you can, actually sell this product.
Well, that's right. I mean, selling is going to be one of the biggest things in the business, because if you're not selling, you don't have a business. So really need to get good at bloody selling and make that your top priority
Yeah.
in order to grow.
And I just want the listeners to, think a little bit that starting a business isn't just about getting everything right. It's about learning what works as fast as possible.
Well, the best thing they can do is again go back to that whole problem situation where, they need to find they need to start with a clear problem.
Yeah.
Who has the problem? How painful is it? Are they already paying to solve it? Because if they're paying to solve it, and you can solve it maybe faster, better, maybe it gives them more time. You're essentially validating your product, and you know that it's going to be easier to sell. So the best opportunities already exist. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make it a better wheel, if you like. And if there's already demand, then you're already a winner.
Yeah. And you need to build that simple offer. One thing that we really struggled with when, I started with Adonis is we were doing marketing, but it was kind of a bit, oh, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, we can do, we can do everything for you. And it actually diluted what we could do. Now we're in a point where we've actually packaged it all up and it makes sense and our offer is 100% clear. So when I speak to people now, it's a lot easier to show them and tell them how this will benefit their business. And your first offer, it should be simple, outcome focused, and really easy to understand. You should be able to dumb it down as if you were speaking to a 5-year-old. You want to avoid doing the complexity or multiple different services or having an unclear value. It's a lot easier just to have the one niche and the one offer. And then once you start to grow that, you can look at doing multiple different services.
Yeah, the thing is, if you've got one niche and you've got one offer, you've got one prospect, you've got that means you've got one message. It's just so much easier to sell. It'll be less stressful for you. Your
Less
messaging,
confusing.
messaging will be on point. It'll be less confusing. It'll be able to repel the people that you don't want to work with because you've defined who your ICP is. And it just makes life and business a whole lot easier and business growth as well. And if you can be that one person in a category of your own, then that's exactly where you want to try and head.
Yeah. And when we look at, building in public, this also comes into sell before you build. So instead of building first and then trying to sell the outcomes, sell the idea, offering the service, getting the commitment. You could be building an application in public and, posting everything on your social media platforms of how you're doing this and day by day and, sharing yourself and what makes you unique. And this is exactly what Kinzo AI is currently doing. I think they've had 50,000 people sign up for their AI software. And I think it only just went live the other day. So they've already got heaps of interest there. So they know the demand is there.
Yeah.
They know it's likely going to sell out or well, not sell out because it's software, but it's likely going to have a lot of people, coming on board and ready to jump on straight away.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that people need to understand is if you're building in public, don't get into that trap thinking that if I show people what I'm doing, that means other people want to do what we are doing.
We'll steal it.
That's never, quite possibly, never ever the case. It just doesn't happen like that. Most people, but just because you've got that passion for whatever it is you're building, doesn't necessarily mean everybody else will either. And another thing as well is just because something already exists doesn't mean that you can't come in with a better product and overtake or and be better, especially if you're focusing on a particular niche, so that you're best in breed application for that particular niche, you know?
Yeah. You want to talk to real customers. So you learn in business by the conversations you have with them, the feedback you get from them, and the objections that come when you're trying to sell your services or product. It's not by guessing and it's not by assuming. The customers will tell you what's working and what's not, and you need to listen to them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's one of the things that most companies don't do, even the larger companies, although some of them do
Yeah.
send out surveys and things, they don't do it enough.
No.
When you start to build momentum early, it's always good to focus on one channel. Like for instance, I mean, we have multiple channels. We post everywhere, but most of our engagement comes from LinkedIn, and really that's where our clients are. So what I would try and do is don't try and post on every single platform that's out there, because every single platform generally needs their own strategy. They'll need their own way of communicating on that platform. So the best thing you do is to pick one channel, one audience, and one approach, and focus on what creates the traction. Because growth will come from the depth of what you're posting, not from the spread of it.
Yeah. And you want to prioritize revenue early. So many beginners, they focus on the branding, the content, the setup, instead of purely just making money. And the revenue is what will validate the business. And, when you get that revenue, you can reinvest that in the business, which is actually going to help you scale a lot quicker.
That's right. And I'll tell you, as I've said already before, if no one's paying, then it's no quite a business yet. It's a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that we've spoke about before, especially in the last podcast, was about systems. What people need to be doing is need to be building systems early. Don't wait until you're 5 years down the line and you start thinking about systems, because you need to start thinking about ISO 9001 and things like that. Start thinking about them now. The sooner you
Yeah.
get systems in place, the sooner you'll be able to grow faster. Even think about things like, how do leads come in? How do you convert them? How do you deliver to those leads? Systems will create the repeatability within your business.
Yeah. When, you don't need to have that complex system early on. Like it doesn't need to be crazy. You just need to have a clear way that revenue is generated and how is that repeatable. So it continuously happens and you can bring in clients and keep them for long term from a long-term perspective.
That's exactly right. And one of the things you need to not do is waiting for perfection. If you're building an application, especially in public, don't wait for perfection. Get out there, build it in public, take the feedback on. There's never going to be a perfect plan, there's no perfect timing, and there's never a perfect idea. So it's always good to bounce those things off people as well, because your
Yeah.
idea can evolve, and then your product can or service can evolve with it.
Yeah. And this is something similar to what we mentioned last week with being a young entrepreneur, but don't compare yourself to others. It's so easy to get stuck in a trap of, oh, why is that person at this stage making millions and I'm not? And, I've worked harder. Like, you don't see their journey. And it's so easy to compare yourself and be like, oh, I should be there. But, if I'm comparing myself to somebody that's in their 40s, they've had 20 years more experience than what I have. They've been through the journey. They're
That's
at
right.
the fruition part of the journey.
Yeah, totally. And one of the other biggest things is do not quit. Do not quit, especially too early. Most people quit when it gets hard, but when it's getting hard, that's when you're just in that precipice of making it to get to that next level where your objectives and things that you set previously. Because let's be honest, as I've said on the last podcast, about going to the gym and things. Anything worth building takes time. Results
Yeah.
are generally slow. They don't happen overnight. It just doesn't happen. There's no quick fix for anything. And even if things feel unclear, just stick with it and just keep pushing on. Just don't give up.
I think 90% of founders quit within the first 3 years, if not more.
Yep. Crazy, eh?
It's so easy to just say, oh, I'm not getting, this isn't working. But why is it not working? You can still go back or keep your 9 to 5 and do this, your 5 to 9 or your,
That's right.
in the morning and in the afternoon. There is time that you can make to get it done on weekends. You might have to sacrifice going out. You might have to sacrifice things in your life to get to where you want to be. You can't do everything all at the same time.
The thing is, that's why.
Trust me, I've tried it.
That's right, and that's why they need to take that long term approach now when they're young. And it doesn't matter how young you are here, by the way. If you're just getting started and you're 45, that's fine as well. Just keep pushing on. Don't give up. Get started. Do whatever it is that you want to do. Because see when you're sitting on your deathbed at 85, you'll wish. I mean, you've not got any option. You'll wish that you'd done taking that chance.
Yeah. And the average millionaire, I think, is like 57 or 55.
Yeah,
So, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s even, and you're not there yet, it's because you're not supposed to be. You're not in the average.
that's right.
So, starting a business isn't about having the perfect idea. It's not about having everything mapped out, ready to go. It's about finding a solution and something that works and then building on it and learning continuously as you go. If you're the type of person that is continuously learning, you're going to outdo everybody else. The faster you test, the faster you learn and adjust, the faster you build something real.
100%.
So if you found this valuable, make sure you subscribe to the podcast down below. And if you're serious about building revenue systems, make sure you follow Adonis Media on all of our channels.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye.